What's up, everybody? I'm Mike. This is Zach, and this is the fight.
Howdy.
What's going on?
Not much.
Same old, same old.
Yeah, let me guess. It's been a hell of a week.
It's been a hell of a week. So, last week we left off with a teaser about Cuomo and all that was going down. So we got some of that to talk about today. We got some two-way stuff. We have our take on Coca-Cola's Be Less White. We got some Biden buyer's remorse going out there, and I got some sound bites from Garland's confirmation hearing that are worth taking a listen to. Look at that, sound bites. Sound bites. Official sound bites made ourselves for the show. That's
big.
I mean,
big
that's
time.
Every week we're stepping it up, people. I mean, hey, if you didn't like it this week, maybe in a couple weeks come back and check again, because we might have gotten better. You know what I mean? That's what we're trying to do every week. That's the goal.
Yeah. Always strive to be better.
That's what we're here for.
Life, so.
Always gonna be trying to grow. You know what I mean? Always trying to add more, get more, do more.
Love going.
So yeah, Cuomo, that son of a bitch. So first, and I'm glad. I'm glad that we waited till this week to talk about it, because first we had the nursing home scandal, which, I mean, those of us in New York have known about and been talking about for almost the last year, since it was really at least the last 6 months. So, that's why I kind of put it off, because where is this really going? And then when I found out that there was some actual Democrats behind it, and they were going after him, now it's real. Okay, yep. Now he might really get in trouble.
And he's got sexual assault allegations.
And now he's got sexual assault added to it.
Allegedly, he was forcing a kiss and
playing strip poker.
Yep.
On his jet. You've heard that shit.
Yep.
I didn't hear her complaining when they were playing strip poker. It's just years later now that she wants to. I mean,
that's something that she tucked away in the closet for a rainy day, because she knew that.
That's what they do. Yeah. That's what they do, and I mean that's what we do here. We call it like we see it.
Yeah.
If this was, whether this was a Republican governor or whether it's Cuomo, if it was the Republican governor, I'd be saying the same thing. Yeah. I'd be saying, well, obviously he's getting hints that this is okay, because there's multiple instances. There's things like strip poker going on, okay? Usually that's where things stop right now, and now I'm uncomfortable around you forever because you're being creepy.
Yeah.
So obviously she was probably into the strip poker, right? Especially with a nice, powerful, governor.
It's probably the cocaine.
But save it for a rainy day. You know what I mean? That's what you do. You wait till 15 years later, when it can help advance your career, and take down someone maybe that you have a grudge against.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Stay in school. Or don't. Either way. I don't give a shit. So, yes, we have the sexual harassment for Cuomo.
And I've been waiting for the exposure of Cuomo to come as a New Yorker. Now I haven't heard allegations, him talking to, lower level government in New York, and he threatens people. He threatens local, like the small mayors and that. There was a conversation he was having with one of them. I can't remember who it was, but I guess the guy's wife overheard the conversation on the phone and their kids, and Cuomo was screaming at him to change what he was saying and to make Cuomo look better, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you're just gonna call, like you the big boss, like you're gonna call people and scream at people and tell them what they're gonna do. That sounds like that sounds like a communist.
Totalitarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to speak.
Communist. Hey, it's all the same, just different words.
Yeah. That just blew my mind. I'm like, that's like something out of a movie. Like, is it?
Right. I know, that's crazy.
That's like some Gotham shit from like Batman.
Yeah. So not only do you have that, but like I said, there's Democrats behind it, and they're moving in for the kill. So now they're moving in on the sexual harassment, and even before that with the nursing homes, they're starting to talk about that. And I also have an article here from the New York Post. Oh, come on, you piece of shit. This is where it all goes off the rails. Because it's gotta try to load 1 million ads. You can't just look at the article.
Well, this is what happens when you're an amateur trying to do pro level
That's
stuff.
right. But you know what? We're gonna get someday we're gonna get big enough. We're gonna be able to afford all the subscriptions. God damn it! There won't be no ads on our articles. We'll be premium.
Yep.
You know what? And you'll be able to say you were day one fans. I knew them when nobody was watching them.
Oh, yeah.
So we have the article from the New York Post. New York State Democrats take steps to censure Governor Cuomo over nursing home scandal. So now they're even moving them to censure him. That's just going to be the beginning of it. So let's see. We got 11 elected members of the New York State Democratic Party have submitted a resolution to censor Governor Andrew Cuomo. Really?
And I heard they removed. I was gonna say that, and I heard they removed his executive powers that he gave himself.
Yeah, they're going to try to remove his executive powers also. But yeah, a resolution to censor Governor Cuomo over his coronavirus nursing home scandal, including covering up the true numbers of deaths among nursing home residents from the killer virus, protecting medical facilities from legal liability for negligence, and threatening lawmakers for criticizing his policies. So he's just digging himself deeper. So not only all that, but you also have to remember the context that during all this, he wrote a book and published a book talking about how great he was.
Yeah, all the celebrities praising him too.
Right,
like
everybody
Robert
was
De
kissing his
Niro.
ass. Yeah.
I love Robert De Niro's movies, and then you look and see who he's supporting. Like, you're supporting as a monster.
I'm done with Hollywood, just in general.
Just
you know what I mean?
stay out of politics. Stick to what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
God.
I tell you. So, I mean, it looks that they're about to be going after him.
And it's about time.
It is about time.
He's been in office for way too long. He's crippled the New York economy. You know what I mean? It hurts the little guys, or it hurts the people who are more upstate New York. You know what I mean? Who want nothing to do with Cuomo to begin with. You know, and we all suffer at his expense, or at his hand, basically. And now it's time to get rid of him. And you know, I think you're gonna see that happening a lot now. Now that they've already started purging us and our people, they're gonna have to turn on each other. They're gonna, you know what I mean? Because it's a rise for power. They have their own beliefs, but they came together to weed us out. And as soon as they felt like they were on top, now they're like, well, hey, I needed the power. I organized this. Well, no, actually, this is what we need to do. This is what we want. We want a democracy. Nah, we want socialism. That ain't going to happen. Then they're going to clash. Now they're weeding themselves out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they got, they've won everything. The Republicans are gone. There's no Republicans to worry about. So now you will see them, like you just said, exactly. You're going to see them start to eat their own. You're going to see them start to actually compete with each other. You know what I mean? Because the real threat is out of the way. And that's what really bothers me about this. Is it's great to finally see Cuomo taking some heat and looking at some actual consequences. But let's not any of us pretend like this is because of Republicans sounding the alarms, or this is because of us talking about it. Because it's not. Because they just ignore it. Yeah. The reason they're going after him is because there's Democrats that want to go after him. Like I talked about on our previous podcast, from what I hear, it's New York's Attorney General, a lady there. And the woman that's accusing him of the sexual harassment is his former top aide. You know what I mean? So it looks like, yeah, and that's another powerful Democrat, the state attorney general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if there's someone that can go up against the governor, it's someone like that. Yeah. Exactly.
And even if a Republican was to try to run, for governor of New York, they're more likely going to be a rhino anyhow. So.
Right. Well, New York, like California, there's no such thing as a Republican. It's a one-party state. It's been a one-party state since Giuliani. You know what I mean? He was the last Republican. Well, Bloomberg ran and was mayor as a Republican, but we all know he wasn't a Republican. If a Republican runs in New York, that's usually what it is. It's really just a Democrat, like a Bloomberg. You know what I mean? Giuliani was rare, but Giuliani did amazing things for New York City. When Giuliani came in, crime was out of control. They were having all kinds of problems. He's taking heat for a lot of stuff that happened. That like the stop and frisk policy. He's taken a lot of heat for that was going on back then. But when you have violent crime spiking like that, you have to take steps to shut it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, and yes, you still have to be responsible for anything that goes wrong, like some cases of stop and frisk did and all that. But you know what I mean? You gotta. That's how shit works. You know what I mean?
That's where it comes to having good police officers too. You want to have people who aren't, how do I want to say this? You don't want a jumpy police officer. You want a police officer who has a good mindset, someone who's able to control what they're thinking and think logically when they're in intense situations and stuff like that too.
Right.
To help with that stuff. Otherwise, then you have incidents that make the police look bad, or you have these different waves of.
Well, the other problem too, and we've seen this ourselves and everything, is that every group is gonna have its assholes. You know what I mean? And it's idiots, and it sucks, but that gives the whole group a bad name. You know what I mean? So some douchebag shitty cops give cops in general a bad name because those kind of experiences really do affect people, and it stays with them for life, and now they will always have that feeling against police. You know what I mean? Yeah. And really, I mean, everybody knows the blacks do have their issues with the cops, and vice versa, and they get it worse in general than white people do. But it also goes along the lines of, really, with that being said, it's not. What bothers me is everything has become race, and really, it's not race. It's poor versus rich. It's wealth. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, poor white people that live in the same neighborhoods as poor black people, you know what I mean, get treated just as shitty by the cops, or close to, like I just said, there will always be some. Well, not there won't always be, but there is. They do get it worse. You know what I mean, and that's because I think one, it's your couple douchebag apples in every group, and also I think that there's a lot of like stereotypes and prejudices and things like that. So it may not be a white cop being prejudiced against a black person, but for whatever reason, experiences in his past or whatever, he may feel a little intimidated in that neighborhood, or you know what I mean, and that's going to affect how he acts. You know what I mean? Well, so it easily goes both ways, because racism has always been a two-way street. You know what I mean? Let's not act like there aren't blacks that are racist against whites and absolutely hate whites. You know what I mean?
Well, there are, but I think like again, it comes down to like what I was talking about, having an officer who's able to handle the stress and you know what I mean,
Yeah.
the tension that comes with a job like that. You don't want a guy who's trigger happy or quick to be like, oh shit, like you know what I mean. A guy who's scared. If there's a guy who's scared in his job, you know what I mean. There's a difference between being scared and being, you know what I mean. I don't even know what word I was going to use, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Intimidated.
Yeah, you got to be able to hold your own. You got to be able to have good judgment and make good calls.
Well, that's where I like the idea of more training.
Mm-hmm.
That's specifically geared towards weeding that out. You know what I mean? Because exactly to your point that you just made, but if you have that going on, then let's face it, the reaction, the police officer's reaction to situations isn't going to be good. You know what I mean? Because he's intimidated, scared, has some preconceived notions, or you know what I mean? Which I can understand, but that just means that, you know, maybe that job isn't for you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It takes a certain type, just like anything.
Yeah.
And I do acknowledge that those problems exist, but the larger issue, like I was saying, back to the original point, is wealth. You know what I mean? Because look at how a poor white person in that bad neighborhood would be treated compared to suburban white people. You know what I mean? There's a big gap there. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Hopefully but I don't know. It bothers me that because the Democrats are great at using that as a weapon. You know what I mean? Yeah. And really, that's what communism has always been about. Communism has never really had much for solutions other than a more powerful government. What they really are is, hey, you're suffering right now. You're not doing well right now. Those people right there, they are doing well. Or they're responsible for why you're not doing well. So you put us in power. Let us take the reins. And we'll make sure that those people are punished. I mean, it's not going to really do shit to help you, but those people are going to get punished. You know what I mean? And with like your Soviet Union and all that, it used to be with the Soviet Union and them, it was, you know, you guys are waiting in bread lines. You just want bread. There was, you know, starvation was a real thing. Bread lines were a real thing. And that kind of deep poverty was a real thing. In America, not so much. Yes, it exists, and there's homelessness, and people go hungry, but there aren't bread lines like that in the U.S. We're too wealthy of a country. Things are too good. There's always a soup kitchen. There's always a church. There's always you know what I mean?
Yeah, they give out food stamps.
Right. So the communists in America couldn't really use that message of you're suffering, you're waiting in a bread line while, you know what I mean, these people ignore you and they're responsible. So what they did is they couldn't use that message, so then they turned it into race and gender theory and everything that you see now. Oh, those people are the reason that you're down. Those people, it's because they're prejudiced. It's because of white supremacy or this and that, yada yada. You know the long list. And if you vote for us, we will tell you how much we care about your problem, and we will make them suffer for it.
Yeah.
And that's what it really. They never, you know, nothing they do is actually going to help lift the person up who's not doing well. But
yeah, it's a bunch of false promises and a bunch of false hope.
But they have better messaging and they use it effectively. You know what I mean? So, because again, that's an emotional response because you have people who are suffering or or people that just, and nowadays, let's face it, a lot of them just want to be victims for whatever reason, because that's a good excuse to say that, it's not your fault and all that shit. So let's face it, there's a lot of that, but where was I going with it?
I don't know. What was next on our list of things to talk about? I can't remember.
Well, we got
track there.
we got some Biden's remorse going on, which we could see coming.
Elaborate on that.
White House turns off comments on Twitter as the account receives more dislikes than likes on every post.
Oh no! You mean they got more votes, but now they're getting more dislikes on their comments and stuff.
Oh yeah, the most
votes in
the most popular president in the history of the United States.
Yeah.
Has to turn off comments on the White House's Twitter account because it receives more dislikes than likes on every single post.
Not even Trump had to do that.
And not only that, but you have actual tweets from leftists now. A lot of them are tweeting, because Biden promised when he was campaigning in Georgia.
Power off.
He promised. He said, if you vote in, Ossoff and whatever one, those $2,000 checks are going to be going out the door day one when we get into the White House.
We're going to stop gun violence by adding more gun control.
Well, really, it was the promise of the $2,000 stimulus checks going out the door as soon as they get in. That's what people are pissed about. It got dropped to $1,400, and it hasn't even been put out yet.
Well, gun control groups are also harassing Biden about not upholding his promise on banning assault weapons.
Yeah, they are, and we've definitely got some two-way stuff here too. They're pressuring them, but so along with everything that's going on with Twitter, so I've seen all the tweets of them. Well, you promised this, and people, I can't believe I voted for you. I can't believe I spent time campaigning for you. I can't believe this. I can't believe that.
We
you
tried
lied.
to tell you.
And I'm like,
to tell you all.
Right, and it's like, why you guys are really surprised that the 47-year politician acted like a 47-year politician with dementia? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
he hasn't done anything while in office before being elected. The whole time he's there with Obama and all them, never did a damn thing. He hurt the people living in poverty even more. And yet somehow he got voted in and everyone expecting miracles from him. And then he's doing exactly as he did before. And like you said, it's like a shock factor for them. And I don't understand that.
right.
Like,
Well, not only that, but and he's being hidden away. He's being sheltered. I mean, I don't think anybody, I don't think even leftists can sit there with a straight face and try to say that Biden is actually running things. You know what I mean? He's being handled. He's, you know what I mean? He's the placeholder, the figurine or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? But
till he croaks. That's all they're waiting for.
yeah, well, that's all they're waiting for, and then they're going to be launching Kamala Harris's. So not only that, but then now polls are acting funny, right? Because now we're seeing these polls that are coming out, and they all disagree with each other, and they all swing all over the place, and they're wildly erratic, and often they'll come out with some kind of propaganda piece, and so they'll say Biden has a 68% approval rate, Biden has a 78% approval rate, or some will be down in the 50s, but no matter what the number is, it's a good number, usually around 60 or higher. You know what I mean?
I don't see how that
and yet the White House Twitter account is getting more dislikes than likes. Had to turn off comments, and not only that, but you can see all the leftists getting upset and tweeting about it. So obviously the polls are just more propaganda. Yes, we know he's the most president guy. He's so great. He's doing awesome. Everybody loves him. If we just turn off comments, then
it'll be A-okay.
We'll be A-okay. And speaking of comments, feel free to leave one. Please
take and subscribe.
Yeah, all of it. Hit those buttons.
If there's anything you agree with or disagree with, let us know. If there's anything you would like us to bring up in one of our future videos, please let us know. Feel free.
Always. And then we're a year in to 15 days to slow the spread now.
Congratulations, America.
Yeah. You know what? If we just buckle down a little bit more, I think. If we just wear a couple more masks. Yeah. Really, I think that's the problem. We should have just triple bagged it to begin with. You know what I mean?
If people would just stop going outside and breathe.
Or mandated only N95 masks. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, or something. I think. I think hazmat suits should just be required. I think that should be mandatory to leave the house.
Yeah.
Going outside of your house without a full hazmat suit on, I think would be akin to like public nudity or indecency. You know what I mean? And you're putting lives at risk, and you're killing people, is what you're doing. So I think hazmat suits.
6 feet apart. Hell no! You should be staying at least 12 feet apart.
You should. You should. Actually, I think every employee needs to have their own break room.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that every customer needs to be able to have, an aisle all to themselves as they use it. I don't know how we're going to work that out, but it's got to be hazmat suits and keeping people as far apart as possible.
Hell, I read it closed to free markets. You get a list every month of what you're allowed to have.
Yeah, that too. Why not just sit home and, you know what, the government will bring you what you need.
Your rations, you're allowed
when you need it. Yeah. And they'll also send you your work list for the week, where you're to report to for whatever duties they might have.
Sounds good.
Yeah, let's get this thing cranking, So, obviously that shit doesn't work, right? Or else we wouldn't still be doing it if it had worked. You know what I mean? And really, I think, like we thought, it really feels like all along it was just a test to see how much will people take. You know what I mean?
Comply.
Because you see. You can think of the most outrageous thing, like a year ago, you could have been saying, yeah, well, a year from now, we're still going to be doing this, and they're going to be talking about, really, you should be wearing 3 masks. And, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. Oh my. That's exactly what they're doing.
Yep. 2 years ago, if you would have asked me, do I think it's possible that every American has to wear a mask all day, every day, I wouldn't believe it. I would have said, nah. There's no way.
I don't understand.
So, wasn't it Switzerland? They didn't do no lockdown or anything, and they're back up and running again, full swing.
I can't remember if they didn't do any or what country it was. I think there was one like that.
It's either they didn't do a shutdown or they did like a limited shutdown, but then they didn't enforce masks or something like that. So they got herd immunity.
Right. Well, you know who's fully open and not locked down at all? China. Go figure.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke, bro.
Oh, yeah. In Wuhan, they're going out to nightclubs. They're bumping and grinding. They're having a good time. They're meeting people. They're talking. So, no social distancing. Well, I don't even think you can social distance in China. There's 1 billion people.
Yeah.
But...
No, their apartments are.
But it sure worked for shutting America down. I'll tell you that. Because I don't know. I almost get flabbergasted because it's like we literally have like people with the mental acuity of children running an office. You know what I mean? Or running the country. That everybody that's in a position of power in the Congress, and I mean, look at their approval ratings. Look at the shit they do and say. Look, AOC. Come on, like these are the people that are in charge. These are the people that are making like top security decisions. You know what I mean? And they act like a bunch of damn high schoolers. And actually, I remember watching one of Tulsi Gabbard's interviews, where she was talking about how Congress, how she can't believe it because it's just like high school. She says, where you go in and everybody sits apart, and there's little cliques of girls that sit together, and you know what I mean. And it blows my damn mind that this is the best we can do.
I wonder if it's always been like that, and we just never, you know what I mean, back in the days, you just didn't know.
I think we used to have adults running the country. And
I mean, way back in like the 1700s.
Well, look at
1800s.
Look at World War II. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have won that war if we weren't on our shit. You know what I mean? But I feel like
there's more pride in America back then too, though.
Oh God, yes, a hell of a lot more.
Now you talk about America, people are like, America, oil. That's all they ever say. That's the only jokes they can make. Is oil this, oil that. I reckon it's time we get back to our roots.
Hell yeah. So then we have the confirmation for Merrick Garland was this past week, and if you'll remember, he was the guy that Obama wanted to nominate to the Supreme Court at the very end of his presidency.
Yeah.
But by the time Garland would have even went through confirmation hearings and stuff, the presidency would have already changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why he didn't get that pick. That's why Trump got that pick when he took the presidency, which they made a big fuss out of. And, you know, that's why we had to go through all this stuff with RBJ when she passed. And they were like, oh, no, remember what you did to Obama in the last year? Well, no, it was the very end of the last year. You know what I mean? So, it's him. And Biden nominated him for some federal judgeship position, I think, like on the DC circuit or something like that.
Is that the guy who's in charge of like the ATF and all that too? He's in charge of like a few different departments.
He may be. I'd have to. I'll be honest. My background on him is a little bit light.
Hang on. I want to look this up to confirm this.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, let me pull out my handy dandy pocket online tool. All right. His name was. How you spell his name again?
I think Merrick.
Yeah.
Should pop right up.
All right.
Power on. Bluetooth pairing. Bluetooth connected.
You find anything on him?
Yeah. So he's a lawyer.
Yeah. He's a judge too, I believe.
Yeah, so this is what they have. So Wikipedia says is an American attorney and jurist who serves as the United States Circuit Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. He has served on that court since 1997. And of course, he was nominated by Joe Biden for a position of United States Attorney General. So that's not the person I was thinking of. I'll have to do some more research on what I was thinking of. Maybe we'll do that for next video. But yeah, there's someone who's in charge, someone who's like high up with the ATF and a few other 3-letter agencies and the United States government. And that's a kind of a big deal when you have one person in charge of like 3 different departments, because then you can kind of use them how he pleases, you know what I mean? Like, well, technically we can't do this over here, so I think I'm going to do that over here because we can do this with this group of people over here. And basically it gives him more control over certain things.
Yeah.
Which is a big no-no. But, again, I think that's something we'll cover possibly in the next video.
Right.
We'll talk about that.
So I covered, I watched this hearing with Merrick Garland, and the language that was being used and the way it was going, I had to grab a couple of sound bites. Not so much for it being Merrick Garland or really his confirmation hearing, just for the conversations that are happening and the dialect that's being used. And it's a great example for the tactics and really what the left has been doing for at a hyper rate for at least the last 4 or 5 years, and more discreetly even, longer back before that, in this culture war that we're in. So here's the first soundbite I have, and this is him comparing January 6th to the Oklahoma City bombing.
So, what's going on in America? Was Oklahoma City just a one-off, unrelated to what happened here? Can you measure, based on what you've learned so far, what kind of forces are at work to divide and destroy the American dream? Secondly, when it comes to this prosecution, are there elements that we should consider in terms of law enforcement to deal with this rising threat?
That's the rising threat. Domestic terrorism. Us.
I'm sorry, but last I checked, we weren't going in and stamping on people's rights and freedoms. We weren't going to the left and be like, hey, you can't have leftist ideology. You can't think that communism is better than and socialism is better than capitalism. In our eyes, you're free to believe that. But you're not free to enforce that on the rest of us and make that our country's policies. We have a constitution that declares how we run our country.
Right. So that soundbite that we just heard, that was Senator Dick Durbin speaking to Merrick Garland and asking him those questions, basically saying, can you see a comparison between January 6th and, say, the Oklahoma City bombing? Because Merrick Garland was the prosecutor on the Oklahoma City bombing. Of course he was, because all these people have been there for decades. You know what I mean? If not the better part of half a century, if you're like Joe Biden. And the second bite here now, this is his answer to that question, those questions.
Dignity. I don't think that this is necessarily a one-off. FBI Director Wray has indicated that the threat of domestic terrorism, and particularly of white supremacist extremists, is his number one concern in this area. This is coupled with an enormous rise in hate crimes over the past few years. There is a line from Oklahoma City, and there's another line from Oklahoma City all the way back to the experiences that I mentioned in my opening with respect to the battles of the original Justice Department against the Ku Klux Klan. We must do everything in the power of the Justice Department to prevent this kind of interference with the policies.
And that's the end of the second bite. So, like a good soldier, Democrat Senator Dick Durbin says, hey, do you think that January 6th was a lot like Oklahoma City, and it's all just our biggest threat is these white right-wing domestic terrorists. And then Merrick Garland comes in like a good soldier, as you just heard right there. I see what you're doing, Senator. I like it. Listen, not only, yes, are those things the same, and yes, that's our biggest threat, as we see, because white supremacy and hate crimes and everything is on the rise right now. Not only are those things the same, but I can draw a line from both of those right back, and it's all about the Ku Klux Klan, white supremacists, domestic terrorists. That's what white people are. We all know that. And that's our biggest threat that we face today.
I absolutely hate being associated with white supremacy. Because, all because of the fact I'm a Trump supporter and I believe in I have constitutional values. I believe in constitutional America. And all of a sudden I'm linked to some people that haven't even been around since the 1800s, maybe the late 90s or mid 90s, whatever the hell it was.
Right. Well, half our problem though is that we respond to that shit. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, we let them control the narrative. So all they have to do is throw out these insane accusations or narrations, call us whatever they want, and like dumbasses, we start trying to defend ourselves.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which makes us look even more guilty. And makes us look like we are.
It just got to the point, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I'm not even gonna be affected by it. Say what you will, and if people want to just blindly believe that propaganda that they see on the news and assume that that's really what's going on with Trump supporters and everything, then really, other than tell them how dumb they are for thinking that and for not getting to know people themselves or doing a little research themselves or paying attention, you can't fix stupid, and really that's how I've come to accept it. Is I'm certainly not going to sit there and over and over again for the rest of forever wear a mask while trying to say that I'm not a white supremacist. So clip 3 that I have here is Garland's. They asked him because remember, after Joe Biden took presidency, Antifa was rioting still in Portland, and they attacked a federal courthouse. Remember that?
Yeah.
So here's a Democrat, and he basically says to Garland, "Hey, what happened January 6th? What's the difference between that and, like, say, the courthouse, the federal building that Antifa attacked? What's the difference between those two events that both include a federal building?"
Antifa's just a little angry. We need to realize that they need us to understand where they're coming from. I bet you it's something along the lines of that, because I haven't heard it, so I don't know. But.
Right, you can get ready for it. Mm-hmm. And as bad as you think it is, it's probably worse. Here he is.
Domestic extremism, domestic terrorism.
Well, Senator, my own definition, which is about the same as the statutory definition, is a use of violence or threats of violence in an attempt to disrupt democratic processes. So an attack on a courthouse while in operation, trying to prevent judges from actually deciding cases, that plainly is domestic extremism, domestic terrorism. An attack simply on government property at night or any other kind of circumstances is a clear crime and a serious one and should be punished. I don't know enough about the facts of the example you're talking about, but that's where I draw the line. One is both are criminal, but one is a core attack on our.
So that's the end of that clip. And yeah, what he says in there, paraphrased as he's trying to figure it out. Geez. And by the way, that was Senator Josh Hawley that asked him that. I'm a big fan of his. And I love it. So he gave it to Merrick Garland, and he was asking him, why are these two things different? And paraphrase, Merrick Garland's answer that you just heard was, well, because it was Trump supporters, and because the Senate was in the middle of doing something when it happened, that makes it domestic terrorism. That makes it a coup.
Because the courthouse, there wasn't anything officially going on.
Right. But if you go and actually burn down the courthouse after hours, with that,
so you can burn down.
It's just a misdemeanor.
So you can burn down the Capitol after hours, and you're A-okay.
Right. So, Trump supporters, all of us, please remember next time, wait till after hours. Then burn it down. Then take over the government.
We're not inciting violence here.
Oh, nice flags, bro.
Peace.
So, and then clip 4 here is on illegal immigration.
Oh no. We're hitting all the touchy subjects.
And they did. That's what they did. This hearing, though, was over 5 hours long. So these few bits that I grabbed and snatched a couple sound bites out of this 5+ hour hearing. This repeated over and over again is all I heard for over 5 hours in one form or another. All the same line of questioning, all domestic terrorism and white supremacy and Trump supporters, and
I couldn't have done it. I didn't do it.
Oh, I tell you. So yeah, here's on immigration, and if I remember this one right, to give the pretext, I believe it's probably one of the conservative senators or congressmen asking him about illegal immigration on the border and the policy of, basically whether that's a crime or not anymore.
Because borders should remain a crime.
Well, I haven't thought about that question. I just haven't thought about that question. I think the president has made clear that we are a country of with the borders and with a concern about national security. I don't know of a proposal to decriminalize but still make it unlawful to enter. I just don't know the answer to that question. I haven't thought about it.
Will you continue to prosecute unlawful border crossings?
Well, this is again a question of allocation of resources. We will, the department will prevent unlawful crossing. I don't know.
It's a clear and cut. It's a cut and dry answer.
Right.
Do you believe we should hold people accountable for illegally crossing the border?
Right.
How should we deal with that? It's illegal. They should be arrested and deported. Very fucking simple. Or say, hey, we understand. You want to be an American? That's fine, dandy. Why don't you go back to your country? And we'll tell you how to file and become a citizen, and we'll help you with the paperwork. You know what I mean? You pay your dues, and you're welcome back in the country as a citizen. Let's do this the right way. Give them a chance to try to become a citizen. You know what I mean?
Right.
That would have been a suitable answer. Hey, we can help them achieve their goal of becoming a citizen.
Well, not only that, but then again, we're giving away the conversation, because now we're defending, how we're going to meet them in the middle when there is no meeting them in the middle. Everybody knows it should be very simple. If you illegally cross, that's criminal. No. If you legally cross, then you legally cross, and that's how you obtain citizenship, through the process. You know what I mean?
And that's
we're not saying no more immigrants. You know what I mean? We're saying you have to do it by the process.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you don't have borders, then you're not a country. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Woke Europe has been playing around with open borders for a long time now. A very long time.
Didn't they have to shut down their borders to refugees like a few
Yeah,
years ago?
because their open borders were causing problems. And not only with the refugees, but then the terrorists were sneaking in with the refugees, and they were getting those terrorist attacks and all kinds of shit. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, and then that hearing, like I just said, 5 hours of white supremacy, this, domestic terrorism, that, white people. It's all I hear lately. And even from our companies now, like Coca-Cola, I'm sure everybody's seen this on social media by now and everything like that. Coca-Cola having a training seminar for their employees on, I guess, tolerance and acceptance or whatever BS. And in their training seminar, they had a section urging white people to be less white. And right here I have this is the list that they told their employees, all of them, in this training seminar. To be less white is to be less oppressive, be less arrogant, be less certain, be less defensive, be less ignorant, be more humble, listen, believe, break with apathy, break with white solidarity.
So, what I'm hearing is be less confident, be more open to asking questions, and basically don't show any smart or wit about you whatsoever.
Right.
Don't be you.
Basically, break this list down. It says, be submissive, know your place, and accept that you're pieces of shit, and accept that every other white person is a piece of shit, and don't stick up for them, don't defend them, don't stand together in solidarity. You know what I mean? And it's getting more and more and more and more ridiculous. You know what I mean? This language that we're hearing. If I thought the whole point was supposed to be equality, and we were making good steps to get there, and now we're going so far extreme to the other side. You know what I mean? And just like Gina Carano or whatever her name was getting canceled for making the same point that this is how bad things happen, is when you get your population to all hate anybody who's of a certain color or race, or say these things about it. You know what I mean?
You're fighting racism with racism.
Now, what if Coca-Cola had put out the same list, or a slightly the same kind of list, aimed at specifically black people or another race? You know what I mean? What if they were sitting there telling employees to be less black, and they gave them some bullshit list like this and said, to be less black is to be less aggressive, be less arrogant, be less certain, be less ignorant, be more humble, listen, believe, break with apathy, break with black solidarity, and Black Lives Matters. That would not be okay, right?
No.
That sounds pretty awful.
I feel uncomfortable just hearing.
Exactly. And you should feel uncomfortable, because that is not okay.
It's racist as shit.
And if it's not okay to do against black people, then it's not okay to do against white people, and it's not okay to do against Latino people, and it's not okay to do against Asian people, and it's not okay to do against Indians. I mean, this is very simple shit here that you learn at the age of 2, you know what I mean? The golden rule, do unto others.
Yeah.
And all that. But if we keep, and I know some people say, oh, well, you guys sitting there and you're running the world for all of history, and now all of a sudden a couple things get said about you and you're rah, 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 rah. We've been living under it for blah, blah, blah. How many years? Well, okay. the point is that as a whole,
Things were
we were agreeing to not do the mistakes that previous generations have done.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's really what the new generations. So the people that are alive today, I never owned slaves.
Right.
The black people that were alive today were never slaves. You know what I mean?
And actually,
and yes, there is some racism and stuff like that, but it's nothing like what they're being played to believe it is.
People
you know
are
what I
fighting
mean?
racism with racism. So then you got people who are growing up racist.
Exactly. Fighting racism with racism.
And then when they grow up racist, they end up hating these other groups, whether, regardless of color of the skin. And then what ends up happening is, as a result of them hating on that group then has someone growing up with the same views because they were hated on and trampled on and treated like a piece of shit. So it's like a going back and forth thing where we're just trying to move forward past all this. We're trying to evolve as a world. The whole world is trying to get past all this stuff. I mean, there's still some countries who have slavery still today, and no one's even talking about this. There are countries, and it's not like there was just black slaves either. There was also white slaves. There was Irish slaves. There was Native American slaves. We could go down that list. That's a whole nother thing. We're not going to do that. I'm just saying.
Slavery and oppression has happened all through human history.
Yep.
Exactly.
And
Everybody.
It's happened to literally every single culture. It just so happens that this was the latest.
It's happened to every culture, and every culture has done it. You know what I mean? Just like when the slave trade was going into Africa, we weren't going there and rounding up black people. We were going there and they were trading us other tribes people that they had gone and captured and tied up, and you know what I mean? We were doing trade. Wow. If you can call that trade. But
right.
What I'm saying is that it was other tribes, you know what I mean, that would go and capture an entire other tribe and then sell those to white colonists or colonials or whatever, you know what I mean?
Either way you look at it, it's messed up, and it's sad that any of that stuff has ever happened to any culture.
It is.
But we need to...
Which is why we can all agree, as a generation now, that that's not okay. And I thought that's what we were doing, but now it seems like we're going backwards. Like
right.
You said, we're fighting racism with racism, and that's not going to work.
It doesn't work.
That's
just going to create
just
more racism, more problems in the future.
Right. That's just going to make the divide deeper and wider. You know what I mean?
We need to spread.
Which is what they need, because divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for all this shit, we'd be focused on the real enemy, which is the government. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's about all the time we have. We're just about out of time. Flies when you got so much information and so many cultural issues to break down, but we'll keep doing it each and every week. I do got a couple teasers here with the two-way stuff. We got Supreme Court upholds magazine ban as constitutional. This is very bad. This is very, very bad. And this is going to be at the beginning of next week's episode. Next week we will start off, because this really needs to be discussed, and some other two-way stuff in general. So next week we'll start with two-way, where we left off today. Please, like Zach said before, like, comment, share. Maybe you'd even like to see more than one podcast a week. I don't know. We got a lot of information to do. What you like, what you hate about it, let us know. Get involved. And anything you want to add?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.